Welcome to a journey of discovery, where the profound teachings of Buddhism intersect with the realities of modern life. Have you ever stopped to wonder, what happens after we die? Is there truly something within us, a soul, a spirit that continues? Or are we just a fleeting collection of experiences, passing through the world like sand slipping through fingers? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood teachings of Buddhism, rebirth. But wait, this isn't about reincarnation as you might imagine it. Forget the idea of an eternal soul jumping from body to body, life to life. That's not what the Buddha taught. In fact, the truth is far more profound, and it challenges everything we think we know about ourselves. What if everything you believe makes you you, your name, your memories, your personality, is nothing more than an illusion? What if clinging to this idea of self is the very thing that keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering? It's a startling thought, isn't it? But it's also one that has the power to set us free. The concept of rebirth in Buddhism isn't about a permanent identity moving between lifetimes. Instead, it's about the flow of causes and conditions, a continuous chain of actions and consequences. It's like a flame being passed from one candle to another, not the same flame, but part of the same process. And here's the most profound realization. What continues isn't a self. There is no solid, unchanging I to hold on to. Instead, life is a constant stream, a dance of energy shaped by our thoughts, words, and actions. This is what the Buddha called kamma, or karma, a principle that explains how our choices ripple out into the world and back into our lives, shaping not only our present, but also what comes next. So, what does this mean for us, as humans living in a chaotic, uncertain world? It means freedom. It means that the self is not a prison, and we are not bound by our past mistakes or limited by what we think we are. Each moment is an opportunity to create change, to live with kindness, compassion, and mindfulness. And when we let go of the illusion of me and mine, we begin to see the world as it truly is, interconnected, ever-changing, and full of possibilities. Understanding rebirth is not just about contemplating what happens after we die. It's about how we live right now. It's about realizing that every thought, every intention, every action matters. It's about waking up to the truth that life isn't something that happens to us. Life is something we create. So, are you ready to take a deeper look? Are you ready to let go of what you thought you knew about yourself and step into a new understanding of what it means to be human? Let's dive into the teachings of Buddhism together, unravel the mysteries of rebirth, and discover what it truly means to live with wisdom and compassion. Let's begin by clearing up one common misunderstanding. Rebirth is not the same as reincarnation. In Buddhism, there is no permanent soul that travels from one body to another. Instead, rebirth refers to a continuous stream of consciousness, a flow of experiences shaped by our actions, our intentions, and our karma. It's not about an unchanging self moving from life to life. It's about the process. Imagine a candle lighting another candle. The flame passes on, but it's not the same flame. That's rebirth. It's a dynamic process where each moment leads to the next, interconnected and influenced by everything that came before it. This concept opens the door to a deeper understanding of life and the universe. It challenges us to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as threads woven into the vast fabric of existence. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, they all create ripples, much like a stone tossed into a still pond. These ripples don't just shape our own future, they impact everything around us. This is karma, the natural law of cause and effect. It's not about punishment or reward. It's about understanding that everything we do has consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the world we live in. Buddhism offers us a profound tool to understand this interconnectedness, the concept of dependent origination. It's a teaching that reveals how all things arise and cease based on causes and conditions. Nothing exists independently. It's like a spider's web, delicate and complex. Tug on one strand, and the entire structure is affected. Your actions, your choices, they reverberate across this web of existence, shaping not just your life, but the lives of countless others. But why does this matter? Because seeing life through the lens of interconnectedness changes everything. It shows us that our sense of self is not as solid as we think. The me and mine that we cling to are illusions created by our minds. When we let go of this illusion, we begin to see the truth, that we are part of something far greater, a continuous flow of life and energy. And here's where the beauty lies. In recognizing our connection to everything, we realize our power. We have the ability to shape our lives and influence the world through compassion, mindfulness, and intention. When we act with kindness and wisdom, the ripples we create spread far and wide, touching lives in ways we may never see. Rebirth isn't just about what happens after death. It's about how we live right now. Each moment is a chance to begin anew, to light a new flame, to be a force of positive change in this interconnected web of existence. So ask yourself, what kind of ripples are you creating? How are your actions shaping the world around you? Through the teachings of Buddhism, we are invited to wake up to these truths, to see life as it really is, ever-changing, deeply connected, and filled with endless possibilities. And in doing so, we discover not just who we are, but how we can live in harmony with the world and with one another. This is the essence of rebirth. It's not about the next life. It's about this life, here and now. Here's something that might completely change how you see yourself. Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent self. That's right. What we usually think of as me or I doesn't truly exist in the way we imagine. There's no unchanging essence, no eternal identity that we can point to and say, this is who I am. What we call self is just a collection of fleeting experiences, thoughts, and emotions. It's like chasing a mirage. It seems real when we look at it, but when we get closer, it vanishes. This teaching is known as anatta, or no self. It's one of the core principles of Buddhism, and while it can feel unsettling at first, it's actually a doorway to freedom. Think about it. Our consciousness, the thing we think of as me, is like a wave in the vast ocean. It rises and falls, always moving, always changing. It's never the same wave twice, and it's not separate from the ocean. In the same way, what we think of as I is not separate from the flow of life. It's constantly shifting, shaped by countless conditions around and within us. Understanding this truth is powerful because it helps us let go of the idea that we are solid, fixed, or unchangeable. And why is that important? Because so much of our suffering comes from clinging to the notion of me and mine. We hold on tightly to our identities, our possessions, our relationships, and even our ideas about how life should be. And when life inevitably changes, as it always does, we feel pain, loss, and frustration. But when we realize that this self we're holding on to is just an illusion, we begin to loosen our grip. We stop clinging to what's impermanent, and we start flowing with life instead of fighting against it. Imagine how much lighter you'd feel if you could let go of the constant struggle to define yourself, to protect your ego, to always be something. Instead, you could simply be fully present in the moment, unburdened by the need to be anyone or anything at all. This isn't about denying your existence. It's about seeing it for what it truly is, a beautiful, dynamic process, constantly unfolding. And here's the beauty of it. When we stop seeing ourselves as separate, we begin to understand our deep connection to everything around us. We see that our lives are not isolated bubbles, but part of an intricate, interwoven web of existence. This understanding doesn't just free us from suffering, it opens the door to compassion. When you stop seeing others as separate selves, you recognize that their struggles, their joys, their lives are deeply connected to yours. Compassion naturally arises because you realize that we are all part of the same ocean, rising and falling together. The teaching of anatta might feel challenging at first because it asks us to let go of what we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves. But when we truly grasp it, it can transform the way we live. We begin to see life as fluid, interconnected, and full of potential. We stop clinging to what we can't hold on to, and we start embracing the freedom that comes from letting go. So ask yourself, what are you holding on to? What would it feel like to release the need to define yourself, to control everything, to cling to the idea of me? The Buddha's teachings remind us that we're not as separate as we think. And in that realization lies the key to a life of peace, compassion, and true freedom. Let's take a moment to talk about karma, a concept that is often misunderstood. Forget about the idea of karma as some kind of cosmic system of rewards and punishments. In Buddhism, karma is much simpler and far more profound. It's the natural law of cause and effect. Every thought, every word, and every action creates a ripple. It leaves an imprint, shaping not only your present, but also your future. Think of karma as planting seeds. When you act with kindness, generosity, or compassion, you plant seeds that grow into well-being, happiness, and positive experiences. But when you act out of anger, greed, or negativity, you plant seeds that grow into suffering, not because the universe is punishing you, but because actions have consequences. Let's imagine someone who spends their life consumed by negativity. They complain constantly, blame others, and focus only on what's wrong. Over time, their life becomes a reflection of that negativity. Their relationships suffer, their opportunities diminish, and their inner world becomes a place of dissatisfaction and unrest. This is not because they're being punished. It's because their actions and attitudes have created an environment where suffering thrives. Now, imagine that same person makes a conscious choice to shift their perspective. They begin practicing kindness, even in small ways. They choose patience when things don't go their way. They let go of resentment and start to focus on gratitude. Slowly, their life begins to transform. Their relationships improve. They experience greater peace, and they find themselves surrounded by opportunities for growth and joy. This transformation isn't magic, it's karma in action. The seeds they've planted through their positive actions are bearing fruit. What's truly liberating about the Buddhist teaching on karma is that it puts the power in your hands. Your life is not controlled by fate or some external force. You are the creator of your own experience. Every moment is an opportunity to plant new seeds, to shape the direction of your life through your choices. But karma isn't just about individual actions. It's about the energy we bring into the world. When you smile at someone, you might brighten their day. That positivity could inspire them to do something kind for someone else. The ripple effect of your actions extends far beyond what you can see. This is the interconnectedness of karma, a reminder that we are all part of a larger web of existence. So, how do you work with karma in your everyday life? Start by becoming aware of your intentions. Ask yourself, are my actions coming from a place of love and understanding, or are they rooted in anger, fear, or selfishness? Remember, it's not just what you do that matters, it's the motivation behind it. When you live with mindfulness and compassion, you plant seeds for a better world, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. And here's the beauty of it. Karma doesn't demand perfection. Every small act of kindness, every moment of patience, every decision to let go of negativity makes a difference. It's about progress, not perfection. So ask yourself, what kind of seeds are you planting today? How are your actions shaping your life and the lives of others? Buddhism teaches us that change is always possible, that we have the power to transform our lives one choice at a time, and that, ultimately, is the gift of karma, a reminder that every moment holds the potential for growth, healing, and the creation of a life rooted in wisdom and compassion. Let's take a moment to address a profound question, one that has sparked centuries of thought. What's the difference between rebirth and reincarnation? In Hinduism, reincarnation is rooted in the belief of a permanent soul, or Atman, that journeys from one life to the next. Think of it like a traveler moving from one home to another. The ultimate goal? Liberation or moksha, freedom from the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But when we turn to Buddhism, the perspective shifts dramatically. Here, there is no permanent soul, no unchanging essence moving from life to life. Instead, what continues is a dynamic process, a flow of energy, conditioned by karma. Buddhism asks us to consider, what if the self is not a fixed entity, but something fluid, ever-changing? The famous analogy of the flame explains this beautifully. Imagine lighting one candle with another. The flame passes on, but it's not the same flame. It's a continuation, a transfer of energy, but not identity. This difference is more than just philosophy. It changes how we approach life and existence itself. In Hinduism, the focus is often on purifying the soul, freeing it from attachment and desire to achieve moksha. In Buddhism, however, the emphasis is on understanding impermanence. Everything changes. The body, the mind, the self. Nothing stays the same. And clinging to the illusion of permanence only leads to suffering. Liberation in Buddhism, known as nirvana, comes not from purifying the soul, but from seeing through the illusion of a fixed self altogether. This is a radical shift. It's not about finding eternal life, but understanding that what we call life is already part of an endless, interconnected flow. So, why does this matter to us as humans? Because this perspective changes how we view suffering, joy, and existence itself. If nothing is permanent, then every moment becomes precious, a chance to practice kindness, mindfulness, and compassion. Buddhism invites us to see beyond labels, beyond the dualities of self and other. It's an opportunity to experience life, not as something we own, but as something we are a part of. An intricate dance of cause and effect, constantly unfolding. So the next time you light a candle or watch a flame flicker, let it remind you, life is a flow, not a destination. And in understanding this, we might just find peace. What happens when we die? It's one of the most profound and universal questions, one that every human being at some point has asked. In Buddhism, death is not an end, but a transition. The moment of death is called Kuti Chitta, the final moment of consciousness in this life. It's like the last note of a song, marking the end of one melody, but carrying within it the potential for another. What follows is Patisandhi Chitta, the linking consciousness that begins the next life. This isn't a random process. It's guided by karma, the actions, thoughts, and intentions we've cultivated throughout our lives. Our karma sets the stage, determining the conditions of our next existence. But here's where it gets even deeper. At the moment of death, the 5 aggregates, form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, dissolve. These are the components that make up what we think of as the self, but none of them endure. They fall away, like leaves from a tree. So, what remains? Not a soul, not a fixed identity, but potential. A seed of possibility shaped by the choices we've made. It's like a mango seed. It doesn't carry the mango tree itself, but it holds everything needed for the tree to grow. In the same way, our karma holds the energy that shapes our next experience. This understanding of death challenges how we think about life. If there is no permanent self that moves from one life to the next, what does it mean to live? For Buddhists, it means embracing the truth of impermanence and recognizing that every moment matters. Each thought, each action leaves an imprint, like ripples in water. But this perspective isn't meant to frighten us. It's meant to free us. If we let go of clinging to the idea of a fixed self, we can live with greater mindfulness, compassion, and awareness. We can focus on what truly matters, our intentions, our kindness, our connection to others. Death then becomes less of an end, and more of a continuation. It's a reminder that life is not something we own, but something we participate in, a cycle of growth and change shaped by our choices. So, what happens when we die? In Buddhism, it's not a mystery to fear, but a process to understand. It's the continuation of a journey, not of you as a fixed entity, but of the energy and intentions you've set into motion. And in that understanding, we can find a sense of peace. Life is fleeting, and death is inevitable. But in the ever-changing flow of existence, there is always the potential for growth, for compassion, and for transformation. And that, perhaps, is the greatest truth of all. So what does all of this mean for you, right here, right now? Buddhism isn't just about understanding the nature of rebirth or what happens after we die. At its core, it's about how we live today. The teachings remind us that life is unfolding in this very moment, and the choices we make right now hold the power to transform everything. By practicing meditation and mindfulness, we gain the tools to observe the flow of our thoughts and feelings. It's not about controlling them or suppressing them. Instead, it's about seeing them clearly, as they are, without judgment. Over time, you begin to notice something profound. Everything, every thought, every emotion, every experience is impermanent. It all comes and goes, like waves rising and falling in the ocean. This realization is liberating. When you truly understand impermanence, you start to let go of the attachments that cause so much of your suffering. The things you cling to, whether it's possessions, relationships, or even ideas about who you are, lose their grip on you. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start loving and living more freely, without fear of loss. But here's the thing. Buddhism doesn't ask you to obsess over the next life, or focus on what comes after death. Instead, it invites you to turn your attention to this life, to this moment, because what you do today, your actions, your words, your thoughts, is shaping your future experiences. Every act of kindness you offer, every moment of compassion you cultivate, every time you choose to live ethically and with integrity, you're planting seeds. Seeds that will grow into something beautiful, not just for yourself, but for the world around you. Kindness and compassion aren't just lofty spiritual ideals. They're practical tools for living a meaningful and fulfilling life. When you treat others with respect and care, you create harmony. When you live ethically, you build trust and peace within yourself. And when you let go of harmful attachments, you make room for true happiness. Happiness that isn't dependent on external things, but arises from within. So, what does this mean for you? It means you have the power to shape your life, moment by moment. Not by clinging, not by controlling, but by showing up fully in the present with an open heart and a clear mind. Buddhism teaches us that life isn't something to endure or escape from. It's something to engage with, to explore, and to transform. The path isn't about perfection, it's about practice. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to peace, to freedom, to understanding. And the best part, it all starts now, with this moment, with this breath. The future is not something distant. It's being created right here, right now, by the choices you make. So, choose kindness, choose compassion, choose to live fully, and watch how everything begins to change. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's take a moment to reflect on the profound teachings of Buddhism and what they mean for us, here and now. Rebirth isn't about fear, speculation, or clinging to ideas of what might come after this life. It's about something far deeper, understanding the nature of existence itself. It's about seeing through the illusions that bind us, the stories we tell ourselves about permanence and identity, and discovering a truth that can transform the way we live. The Buddha's path isn't reserved for monks, philosophers, or those seeking escape from the world. It's for anyone, for you, for me, for all of us who long for peace and freedom amidst the challenges of everyday life. His teachings guide us not to withdraw from the world, but to embrace it with clarity, compassion, and purpose. Through mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living, Buddhism invites us to step out of the cycle of suffering, not by running from it, but by understanding it, to see how clinging and aversion only deepen our pain, and to let go of the idea of a fixed self, an illusion we work so hard to protect and preserve. Think of your life as a wave in the vast ocean of existence. You're not separate from the ocean. You're not fixed, unchanging, or isolated. You're dynamic, fluid, interconnected. A part of something far greater than yourself. The wave rises, it falls, and it changes. But even as it changes, it's always part of the ocean. What does this mean for you? It means you're not bound by the limitations of the past or the fear of the future. Every moment is an opportunity to live with intention, to practice kindness, and to cultivate compassion. This is where true freedom lies, not in trying to control life, but in flowing with it, in understanding it, and in showing up fully for it. So, the next time you find yourself contemplating life, death, and everything in between, remember this: you are not a static, unchanging self moving through time. You are a beautiful, ever-changing wave in the boundless ocean of existence. This understanding is not just a teaching, it's an invitation, a call to live with greater awareness, to see life as it truly is, and to embrace each moment as an opportunity for growth and connection. In the end, Buddhism teaches us that peace, freedom, and happiness are not things we need to chase. They are already here, waiting to be discovered, within us and all around us. All we need to do is look deeply, live mindfully, and open our hearts to the endless possibilities of this moment. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you find peace, may you find clarity, and may you find joy in the ever-changing flow of life.